As diplomatic efforts again scale up, the situation on the ground remains dire, with millions pushed to the brink of starvation, some 10 million displaced, and estimates that over 15,000 people have been killed in 15 months of fighting. That has made Sudan the world's worst humanitarian crisis. The Council convening for closed-door discussions with the SG's personal envoy, who briefed on his mediation efforts.
Members expressed full support for UN-led efforts and took positive note of other international diplomatic efforts to achieve a sustainable end to the conflict in Sudan. They encouraged all stakeholders to coordinate their efforts in this regard. They called on the parties to conflict to uphold international humanitarian law. Council members underlined their grave concern at the security situation and dire humanitarian situation and acute food insecurity in Sudan that affects especially women and children. The Council urged the international community to scale up humanitarian assistance. Council members reiterated their call to member states to refrain from external interference, which foments conflict and instability, and instead to support mediation efforts for durable peace.
Last week extended invitations to the parties for talks aimed at a nationwide cessation of violence to enable humanitarian access and towards developing a robust monitoring and verification mechanism to ensure implementation of any agreement. But a statement from the US government clarified that the talks next month did not aim to address broader political issues, but rather that Sudanese civilians play a leading role in defining a process to address such political issues and restore Sudan's democratic transition. Level of coordination. But given the different tracks, we pressed the UN about whether there was coordination between UN-led efforts and those being developed elsewhere.
Between Mr. Lamamra's team and the U.S. team, we can expect a UN presence at the talks that the U.S. are convening along with Saudi Arabia in Geneva. I have no doubt that everyone is working on the same, with the same aim to relieve the suffering of the people of Sudan, and I think you heard very graphic examples of that today. It's clear that different actors in the international community have different pressure points, different roles to play, but everyone is working on the same, with the same aim.
Pointed to reports of an RSF attack on El-Fasher, Darfur over the weekend that included artillery shells on a market, hospitals and residential areas, killing or injuring close to 100 people. The RSF has denied it was behind this latest assault, which was condemned by Clementine Salami, the UN humanitarian coordinator for Sudan.
Coordinator there, Clementine Salami, today strongly condemned the indiscriminate attacks that took place on Saturday in El-Fasher, the capital of North Darfur. Authorities there report that 97 civilians were reportedly killed or injured when a hospital and a residential area came under attack. Ms. Enqueta Salami called on the parties to stop fighting and do everything they can to protect civilians. And of course, a reminder that 10 million men, women and children in Sudan have been displaced inside the country and across borders since the fighting erupted in April of last year. This year's humanitarian appeal for Sudan is still less than one-third funded, with $859 million in the bank out of $2.7 billion that is necessary.
The UN continues to call for increased access across Sudan in order to respond with scale and the volume necessary to address the needs of some 25 million people, 14 million of which are children, that require humanitarian assistance today. Sherman Bryce-Pease, SABC News, New York.